All right, we're good. We got breaking news today. Jake Paul is fighting Anderson Silva October 29th. I left my job early, straight from the farm, just to record a video clip because we're serious now. We're back.
There we
But
go.
Jake Paul, Anderson Silva, October 29th, right after Jake Paul decided to cancel his event, which was supposed to be, what was that date? September 6th? Yeah, it was September 6th versus Hasim Rahman Jr. Rahman couldn't make weight. And Jake Paul said he had a big guest. We actually said on the most recent pod, we were saying Jake Paul versus Andrew Tate. We just uploaded that yesterday. If you haven't seen it, Kandis Show episode 45. But now it's officially Jake Paul, Anderson Silva.
So crazy, dude. Well, I saw a little clip. He's saying Anderson first and then Andrew Tate after him. But
Damn.
I guess
that's a nice for fun.
He was saying, Andrew Tate's gonna have a bunch of excuses, and the fans will, and he feels like that's almost a step backwards, because he's saying that it's more of an entertainer instead of a professional fighter, even though he was a kickboxing world champion. But Anderson Silva, bro, 47 years old, legend.
That's where Jake might have the advantage, just for the simple fact. So Anderson's 47 now, huh?
Yeah, 47. He's old, bro. He's old. But Anderson Silva is the Michael Jordan of MMA, right? I mean, is that fair?
That's fair.
That's fair. He's the greatest, right? I think everyone would agree. Or the biggest legend, even if not the greatest. If you want to give it to John Jones, fine. But if you're talking about legacy-wise, respect-wise, I think Anderson Silva.
George St. Pierre would be there too, but the one thing Anderson Silva though, Anderson Silva was like a little more swaggier than GSP, so that's why I'll give him a little Michael Jordan swag.
Yeah, well, all of his fights were exciting too. And what's the streak that Usman almost just beat?
Yeah, Usman had 15 in a row before he just got head kicked by Leon Edwards. He was 15 in a row. It's UFC fights. 15 UFC fights in a row, was about to tie Anderson Silva's record of 16 UFC fights won in a row.
But which is fucking crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. That's not getting caught. In that article, I don't know if you can pull it up on the MMA Fighting. Does it say where they're doing this fight? October 29th?
Bro.
I'm curious. I'm honestly, the two things I'm curious about, where, not that it makes a big difference, but I'm just a little curious because the Hasim Rahman Jr. is supposed to be Madison Square Garden. I know they're probably not doing Madison Square Garden because that's probably too quick. Well, what's today? August 30th. That's 2 months. They could do MSG again, but I'm curious. And Anderson Silva's a bigger name than Hasim Rahman, and they were trying to do Madison Square Garden. And also, I'm curious the weight. But Jake Paul on his Twitter today, on MVP Promotions, the Twitter account. I don't know if you follow him, but I doubt you do. But anyway, the moral of the story is he's on the MVP Most Valuable Promotions Twitter feed. They were saying that they were announcing it next week, the opponent. But
it kind of leaked. It leaked out a little bit.
Did Jake come out with anything?
No, I think it's all just leaks. I think it got leaked. But how do you feel about the fight, dude? I mean, what are you thinking?
I love it. I mean, again, I want to know the weight thing because the reason mainly is because we saw what Jake Paul did with Hasim Rahman. He had to make 200. He's never fought at 200. He had a dehydration rule where, whatever it was, you couldn't gain an extra 10 pounds the night of the fight. So you could only go from 200 to 210. So I'm just curious if they're giving Anderson that, because Anderson's a bigger guy now. Don't forget he fought at 205 a couple times. So I'm sure he's walking around at like 215, 220. I'd have to imagine.
Yeah, they probably do it at 200 or 205, I'm sure.
200 or 205, probably, yeah. So I'm really curious about that, especially, and also because he's 47. So I'm curious what he's weighing and how much he's got to cut. Well, obviously, this just broke news today, so we're going to get news this week. And,
yeah, I'm sure that's what we don't know all the specifics. But Anderson Silva's 2-0 in the boxing ring. He beat up old man, bummy bum, Tito Ortiz, your favorite. And then who's the boxer he beat?
Julio Cesar Chavez. And that's a real boxer. A real boxer, and he was I remember going into that fight, Silva was a big dog. Silva was like plus 300 for that fight, and he only won a split decision, but still to beat a real boxer when you were plus 300 at 40. I mean, I know Chavez is old too, but that's pretty impressive.
I mean, if you had to predict the bookies odds, what do you think for this?
It's curious.
I feel like it's a pick'em, no? Or do you think it'll be leaning towards Jake Paul? I don't know.
I mean, Jake has even come out saying Silva will be the dog. Also, in that MVP tweet that I said about next week, he said he'll be the underdog. So,
I'm thinking like minus 120 on either side or something like that, or
Silva minus 145, Paul plus 125.
yeah, something like that.
Right now, Jake Paul versus Anderson Silva boxing odds.
All right, but you have to carry it, yeah.
I will. It just came out today, but sometimes, like those sites will have odds because the fights were talked about, and that fight's kind of we've heard about this possibility for a while. We just didn't know, but I'm leaning probably Anderson Silva minus 145. The difference in Jake Paul 125. The difference with this one, and like people might think like Woodley. People don't really know fighting.
It opened at Paul minus 180. That's what that article says. What? MMA? Yeah, minus 180 Paul.
Damn. So okay. Well,
no, not MMA. Not MMA fighting. I don't know what this site is. And okay, this odds checker has Anderson Silva minus 130. So kind of what I was thinking. Yeah, minus 130 cool. Plus 100 Jake Paul. This is odds checker. I don't know. There's probably a bunch of random article sites just trying to get clicks real quick and making up shit, but.
Yeah, so that's the thing with these people. And again, of course, the fall on this one is people are going to be, oh, you're fighting another old guy. But Anderson Silva's legit. The difference than Anderson Silva throws like straight punches. The thing people don't know about Woodley just he's just a wide brawler type. Woodley ain't throwing like crisp shots. Silva will throw it right down the pipe. So
yeah. So I mean, what like? Oh my God, this one, and then there's another one that had Paul at minus 120. So kind of right where I said actually. It's kind of right on the dot, but it's a pick 'em basically.
Yeah, and also who knows what the action is. I bet a lot of action goes to Anderson Silva, but again, this is the 47-year-old thing. This, it's kind of the things we were talking about in his previous fights. That, and this is 47. I mean, I saw Tom Brady in a press conference today, looking slim as hell. But again,
but he went on an 11-day hiatus or whatever.
Blood infusion trip and fucking.
But hold on, let's stay on this fight, dog. So I mean, so Anderson wins by decision, or Jake Paul knocks him out. I mean, is that basically what we're looking at?
That's what we're looking at.
Yep. Yeah, fuck. Dude, if Jake Paul knocks out, see, I've been starting to like the Paul brothers. I actually do like Logan now. Jake is still on the edge for me. It is badass that they start the fights and shit, but he is kind of a dummy. But if he knocks out Anderson Silva on TV, I don't know what I would do, dog.
That's a tough.
If he dude, that would break my heart. That would break my heart.
It's a tough one. I mean, again, I need to see. I want to know how many rounds, and I want to know the weight. That makes a big difference to me. When it gets closer, I'll probably do my actual prediction, but I need to know that.
What do you mean? Do your actual prediction right now with the information that you have. That's the whole point of this fucking video, dummy.
But I don't. Okay, fine. But I just don't know if Anderson Silva's like 225 right now. It has to get down to 220. That makes a difference.
I bet Anderson Silva stays in shape. And I'm sure they've been in talks for a minute, and Anderson isn't one not to be training either way.
Well, he was probably looking for a fight regardless. You know what's funny? And before I give my prediction, the guy who was supposed to fight Jake Paul, Hasim Rahman Jr., is headlining this other boxing card first.
No, Vinny. We just lagged for a second. What were you saying?
So the guy who Hasim Rahman Jr., who was supposed to fight Jake Paul, right?
Yeah.
So Rahman got pulled. He's now fighting no other than Vitor Belfort in the main event of this other boxing promotion. My reason of bringing it up is to your point of Anderson Silva staying in shape. I'm sure all these promoters are hitting up the same guys: Anderson Silva, Vitor Belfort, Hasim Rahman Jr. So Vitor's another one for Jake Paul down the line too. By the way, remember Vitor knocked out the one dude, and remember he was supposed to fight Oscar De La Hoya. But I can see whoever wins Vitor, Hasim Rahman being the next guy for Jake if Jake beats Anderson. But right now, I'll go. I'm gonna go with the younger, probably more testosterone, whether it's real or fake testosterone. I'm gonna go Jake Paul by third round knockout.
Oh my God, that would fucking devastate me.
Yeah, I think so.
That would devastate me. I can't do it. I'm thinking Anderson Silva by decision. Oh man.
Well, here's what I do like too, and I am on third round knockout, so it wouldn't make a difference. But if the longer the fight, obviously that's better for Anderson Silva. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like how Woodley was, but Woodley gets tired. Silva won't get tired. He doesn't carry the muscle mass like that. So.
Right, and that's what I'm thinking too. The fact that Tyron, that first fight, not the second one. The second one was an awful performance, but that first one, I mean, it carried all the way to decision, didn't it? That first fight.
Well, yeah. No, carried all the way to decision, but even the Woodley one, remember?
And Woodley was piecing him up too, and like you said, Anderson Silva's striking is different than Tyron Woodley. Yeah, there might not be as much fucking muscle mass behind those punches, but they're crisp, and there's gonna be a lot of output from Anderson Silva.
Don't forget, not to keep bringing the Woodley one up, but to Woodley's defense, don't forget, remember, he took that fight on 2 weeks' notice as well, the second one.
That's why I'm marking that one off. That's why I'm not talking about that one. But
that was also a highlight reel knockout, though, so it's been
right.
Anyway.
Yeah. I just part of me doesn't see Jake Paul losing, and I don't think his camp would allow him to take a fight that he'd lose. Just because once he loses, the steam's kind of over. I mean, but my heart is hoping they're underestimating Anderson Silva, saying he's 47, not realizing he is still the Spider. He's 2-0 in the boxing ring. I mean.
And I'm more of a fanboy of Jake Paul than you at this point. I've been watching more content from him, like his new podcast, and the thing that I've seen, even with the Hasim Rahman Jr., right? His manager told him not to take the fight. The little girl, Amanda Serrano, who he has all his co-headliners, one of the best girl boxers, she thought it was a little weird that he was taking a fight. I watched him on Impulsive with Logan Paul. Logan Paul thought it was questionable to take the Hasim Rahman fight. So Jake is doing this kind of, whether it's ego or just proving a point, like any of us would probably want to do if we're there. Like, these guys are kind of underestimating me, talking shit like I can't fight a real guy. Even though it's a big risk and it can ruin your whole promotion thing, I ain't mad at Jake for taking a risk. And that's really what it pays way. So, but I do think people around him are saying, hey, be careful. You can take easier guys if you keep this pushing. Let's go fight KSI. Let's go fight blah, 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 But I think Jake has that kind of mentality too. Like, no, I'm going to go prove myself. Let's go beat Anderson Silva. Let's go get Vitor Belfort next.
Damn.
We got Nate Diaz.
Another point I wanted to hit. I'm sure all of us saw the clip of Joe Rogan saying on that one podcast that they canceled the fight because they weren't going to be able to sell enough tickets. And made it in Madison Square Garden. This fight, I'm sure would fill up whatever venue that they'd be holding it at. Yeah. Don't you agree? Yeah.
Yep. Well, that's why, again, that's the thing.
Even pay-per-view numbers, like I wasn't even excited about the last Jake Paul fight, but I am definitely, and I probably would have watched that, but you and I are obviously a little bit bigger fans of this type of shit. But this fight, I mean, it's going to be the talk of the town until it happens, and then probably for a decent bit after it, so.
Yeah. And I'm sure they'll have good people on the card, too. They always have Amanda Serrano. I could see them doing one of those, these Frank Gores or these guys who are trying to fight. So I'm sure that whole card. That's why I'm curious where it's at, too. But, of course, Dana White's also going to come out and say, well, again, he's fighting a 47-year-old. Blah, blah. I hate that that's going to be the thing to kind of tarnish it if there is going to be something that tarnishes it. But the real fighter, Anderson Silva, is legit, even at 47. So.
Do you feel confident enough to put money on this fight? Would you put money on Jake Paul, or do you not feel that confident?
Again, I got 2 months to lead the build-up, but I know you want me to give your answers right now. I would go, I feel confident probably put money on Jake Paul.
Damn, really?
Yeah. I mean, don't forget, he was getting super ready for Tommy Fury and Hasim Rahman Jr., and he was probably going super hard. Now he's another 2 months, and I'm sure Anderson Silva probably sparks you up even a little more than those two guys.
That's actually a really good point. I mean, he's been in fucking 2 fighting camps back-to-back, basically, with canceled fights. So, I mean, he's in tip-top Jake Paul shape,
It's like 24, 25, hella testosterone, like I said, real or fake testosterone, but whatever.
Yeah.
Fighting at a weight that he knows he can make without a
grind.
Without body. So I'm leaning Jake, but I still want to see the weight. I want to see the venue. But yeah, I lean Jake right now.
All right, my spirit can't do it, but yeah, I'm gonna have to run with Anderson Silva by decision. But I can see Jake winning. I just hope, even if he does win, I hope it's like a ref ends it. I don't want like a nasty fucking highlight reel against the legend Anderson Silva. If that happens, bro, I don't know what I'll do.
That would be kind of crazy, right?
That would be very upsetting. Very upsetting. Because, again, he's a Michael Jordan of MMA. You know what I mean? It's different. Like, if Vitor Belfort, or, any of these fucking guys, it's different.
Yeah, Vitor's old, too, but that'd be a good one. I could see that one happening next.
But I'm saying Anderson's peak of UFC. He is UFC. Yeah. He's the legend, So seeing a disrespectful knockout like he did Tyron, like, oh, my God, bro.
One thing that worries me, too, is what I saw with that Logan Paul Floyd Mayweather is that Mayweather at 44, I think he was when he took the fight against Logan. I think he was 44 or 46. I think 44. But, what made Floyd so good was his movement, his head movement, his feet, his footwork. But you could definitely see it slow down a little bit. That's the thing with Anderson Silva. Like, typically, I don't think Jake would hit him. but also this isn't typically because this is a 47-year-old Anderson Silva. So that's the only thing that gives me a little worries. Jake could get in and just really 25 and 47, bro.
Fuck, man.
I mean, I'm 32, and I don't think a 47-year-old beat me at anything. So that's just me personally. That's me personally. So I don't know.
All right. Well, there we go. It's exciting news. Obviously,
Yeah.
way more exciting than the previous announcement. And I guess we'll see what happens. And I'm sure once more information comes out, we'll probably do another video on it, huh?
Yeah. But all right. So this is our Jake Paul versus Anderson Silva predictions?
Yeah. Predictions and bets. So there we go. Thank you guys for watching.
All right. Let's get it. Oh,
Cool.
Candy Show and everything. Check it out, too. We just dropped the pod yesterday. Candy Show 45.
Yes,
Appreciate
sir.
it.
Cool.